Good afternoon, and welcome to the webinar, After COVID, Cyber and the Coming Remote Work Revolution. I'm Tom Finan with Willis Towers Watson. As America emerges from the COVID-19 pandemic, cybersecurity will never be the same. The reason? People. While companies typically reserve work-from-home privileges for standout employees, they soon will find themselves in a world where those arrangements are the expected employee norm. Cybercriminals will adjust their tactics accordingly. Hackers already are shifting their targets from relatively well-defended corporate environments to home offices and other off-site locations that lack strong protections. The recent surge in phishing attacks aimed at quarantined remote workers is just one sign of this impending change. Three trends are emerging about where and how post-pandemic work will be happening. Each will alter the cyber risk management landscape forever. First, a vastly larger population of remote workers will permanently expand the attack surface, a phenomenon that will require new ways of prioritizing and mitigating cyber risk. Second, companies will turn to the human element of the problem and build more robust cyber risk cultures in response to ensure resilience from disaster. And third, HR leaders will emerge as essential cybersecurity players and will join forces with their Chief Information Security Officer colleagues. Companies that fail to embrace this changing reality will face increasing exposure to damaging cyber incidents. Injured parties, counsel, and courts will come to recognize human-caused cyber incidents as largely avoidable and, in many cases, negligent. Insurance underwriters will be similarly unsparing when assessing client suitability for cyber and other critical lines of insurance. To protect themselves, companies should start now with building and funding the people-focused cyber risk management strategies they'll need to avoid major financial, legal, and reputational loss. Before the pandemic, experts estimated that 3.6% of American employees worked from home at least 2 to 3 days a week, defined as full-time for statistical purposes. That figure represents about 5 million people. As the country comes out of COVID-19, those same experts estimate that the percentage will skyrocket to as much as 30% by the end of 2021, a 733% increase. This shocking jump represents almost 42 million people, just under a third of the American workforce, who will be working full-time from home all the time. The massiveness of this sea change cannot be overstated. It took 15 years, from 2005 to 2020, for the number of full-time work-from-home employees to expand from 3.5 million people to 5 million people. That's a growth rate of about 2.86% year over year. By contrast, COVID-19 will explode the current number more than eightfold, a growth rate of about 493% in just 18 months. In short, the pandemic will accelerate what had been a gradual but growing shift toward remote work into a high-stakes speed race. According to Willis Towers Watson's latest cyber claims data, 63% of cyber incidents are caused directly by a company's employees through accidental disclosure, social engineering scams, ransomware, and even malicious intentional behavior. The lack of direct physical oversight over remote employees only compounds these problems. Without effective cyber risk controls to address the human element, companies are at a serious risk of crashing and burning as their work-from-home populations rapidly expand. To avoid this fate, they must engage their remote teams and develop strategies to change cyber attitudes and behaviors for the better. Their futures depend on it. Employee enthusiasm for remote work had been very high even prior to COVID-19's arrival. In a 2019 survey, 99% of employees responded that they'd like to work remotely, at least part of the time, for the remainder of their careers. They cited eliminated commutes, greater work schedule flexibility, increased personal and family time, and better work-life balance as key reasons. Among employees already working from home, moreover, 80% reported reduced stress levels and improved health overall. Remote work also saved employees money, ranging from $2,000 to $7,000 a year on average, in areas such as commuting, clothing, food, and childcare. On the flip side, many employers welcome the 13% increased productivity common among remote workers compared to their in-office counterparts. Employers likewise appreciated the improved morale, increased employee loyalty, and higher retention rates fostered by work-from-home arrangements. They also cited as a major benefit the considerable cost savings resulting from diminished need for physical office space. The pandemic will put these existing trends on steroids. 5 factors will drive the rapid change we're about to see across the American economy. First, demand for work from home will increase among employees who, although experiencing it through challenging circumstances, now have had a taste of what could be. Second, managers will overcome prior fears about impaired collaboration and lower productivity among remote workers. Having undergone lockdown themselves, they increasingly will trust those workers and provide them with the virtual tools they need to get the job done. Third, shareholders will not soon forget pandemic-caused business disruptions and will press companies to continue work-from-home arrangements to bolster future disaster preparedness. Fourth, employers will have overwhelming evidence of how inefficiently they've used office space in the past. They'll undoubtedly seek to maximize cost-saving opportunities through greater reliance on work from home. And fifth, executives will seek further cost reductions by limiting business travel only to situations where ROI justifies face-to-face client meetings. Virtual meetings from home will rule the day. While the new work-from-home normal will drive numerous efficiencies and other business benefits, it unfortunately will bring a rash of new cyber risk management challenges. When asked by a reporter why he robbed banks, the infamous early 20th century gunslinger Willis Sutton was purported to have responded, "Because that's where the money is." Today is no different. Companies across every industry sector hold vast amounts of financial and personal data, as well as intellectual property, that are a modern-day Willie Sutton's dream. Unlike old Willie, however, this century's cybercriminals don't menacingly brandish weapons to terrorize victims. Instead, their easiest way to a company's treasure is through its employees. In the last several months, hackers have preyed on the public's palpable fear about COVID-19 in order to spread malware and launch other cyber threat campaigns. They've recently deployed an onslaught of emails that purport to advertise coronavirus protection and detection techniques, but which actually deploy ransomware when opened. Cybercriminals have ramped up their efforts against remote workers especially. They know many are working from home for the first time, often with less than secure network connections, even less secure hardware, and inadequate IT support. They also know that remote work comes with a slew of family, household, and other distractions that contribute to higher email click rates, and by extension, higher rates of cyber infection. The hundreds of millions of newly remote workers that make up this expanded attack surface therefore represent very tempting targets and easy routes into corporate systems. Cybersecurity technologies undoubtedly will evolve to help fix these deficiencies. They nevertheless will fall short of addressing the human element of cyber risk. Finding ways to meaningfully engage remote workers through more robust cyber risk cultures is an essential next step towards stopping the current cybercriminal momentum in its tracks. As Willis Towers Watson's claims data shows, effective cyber risk prevention and mitigation is largely a people problem. In response, companies need to assess and analyze the elements of their cultures that expose them to greater risk. To that end, Willis Towers Watson researchers are well versed in all aspects of employee experience. After exhaustive study and analysis, they've identified 4 cultural indicators of higher than average cyber risk. First, lack of customer focus. Employees in breach companies report less emphasis on the customer, slower responsiveness to the customer, and fewer proactive efforts to gather and act on customer feedback. Second, poor adaptability. Employees in breach companies report their companies lack both speed and flexibility when it comes to decision-making and managing teams. Third, low empowerment. Employees in breach companies report lower favorable scores when it comes to empowering staff through communication, respect, and support for teamwork. Fourth, inadequate training and compensation. Employees in breach companies report less adequate training for the work they do, specifically less opportunity to upskill and advance in role, and a need to better align pay with performance. With the permanent work-from-home population expected to jump 733% by the end of 2021, companies should start re-examining their existing human capital investments now to ensure they squarely address these challenge areas. Their cyber survival depends on it. In order to advance more robust cyber risk cultures, remote team managers should adopt customer strategies that embed empathy for all. That means putting employees first through genuine and active caring for their well-being. Once employees feel cared for, they extend that care to clients as part of their day-to-day interactions. As a starting point, managers should outline a vision that clarifies that remote workers are not anonymous cogs in some machine, but instead are part of a collaborative team that serves real people and solves real issues. To support that vision, managers should schedule regular team calls. Those calls should be used to nurture awareness and discussion about the company, encourage the sharing of personal and professional stories, and recognize team members for jobs well done. Managers likewise should host virtual happy hours, lunches, and other get-togethers to promote team trust and collaboration. At the same time, they should maintain direct lines of communication with individual employees. By initiating periodic check-in calls, managers can foster much-needed human connection while also ensuring everyone's voice is heard. By modeling these kinds of empathetic behaviors, managers can serve as proactive models for their teams and encourage similar treatment of customers. For example, deep listening by a manager could inspire a remote worker to create a virtual client coffee hour focused on current challenges. That interaction could lay the foundation for a lasting business relationship. Empathetic engagement doesn't just happen, however. To enable it, managers must ensure their remote teams have access to shared technologies and teleconferencing tools that ensure seamless internal and external communications. And managers must commit to using those tools consistently. As a further step to advance more robust cyber risk cultures, remote team managers should enhance adaptability by focusing on successful outcomes, not compliance with one-size-fits-all processes and workflows. In short, managers should adopt policies that let remote workers decide how they should structure and schedule their own daily work. While managers should have the final word on end products, this practice puts workers in the driver's seat when it comes to innovating approaches to meet changing customer requirements. It also provides the flexibility they need to strike a healthier work-life balance. To further promote autonomy and adaptability, managers should empower remote workers to automatically do the right thing for customers whenever possible, without the need for executive approval or rigid adherence to drawn-out procedures. This freedom makes workers heroes to their clients, transforming them from order takers to decision makers. With more skin in the game, they naturally work faster, longer, and smarter for client benefit. Finally, communications in adaptive work environments can't be a top-down affair. The old practice of telling employees not to raise issues without proposed solutions is out. Managers instead should regularly solicit feedback from their offsite teams to identify emerging pain points early on. They then should collaborate with their teams to develop needed fixes. In other words, managers should go looking for the trouble they might otherwise detect unaided in more traditional office settings. They then should be prepared to roll up their sleeves to help. To further develop more robust cyber risk cultures, remote team managers also should empower workers through employee voice strategies. That means regularly encouraging employees to proactively share their concerns, ideas, and suggestions for improving the business. Managers can and should mine this information, especially for insight into customer moods, using it as a kind of smoke alarm to assess client sentiment and to course correct before opportunities are lost. The science is clear. Managers who actively encourage their workers to come forward with their views create happier teams, promote more collegiate environments, and boost productivity. To get started, employee voice strategies also should include formal mechanisms through which remote employees can share. And managers should make it safe to do so by clearly explaining how received information will be protected as they convey it up the reporting chain. Anonymized staff surveys, especially those conducted by outside third parties, are particularly effective for this purpose. To boost participation, managers should collaborate with those parties on a pre-survey communication strategy that explains why employee perspectives are being sought, who's being asked to contribute, and what will be done with gained insights. The surveys themselves should be distributed in multiple formats to employee cell phones, tablets, and other media to make it easy to respond. Surveys, however, are only one part of the empowerment equation. Once remote workers provide their advice, managers must take concrete action or explain why action is not being taken, so management outreach is not dismissed as mere tokenism. Workers rightly will want to know that their insights and opinions are being used to improve the organization and that they will be included in future decision-making. And once leaders have decided how to proceed, managers then should use smaller pulse surveys to obtain employee opinions on implementation progress and to solicit input on additional needed changes. This repeated process of asking, receiving, and acting on feedback creates an ongoing sense of employee empowerment. If employees understand their viewpoints are being taken seriously and see real changes happening, they will continue developing, refining, and offering ideas. Their frontline insights can significantly enhance both corporate decision-making and organizational efficiency. This virtuous cycle of improvement can be strengthened, moreover, with additional mechanisms that empower employee voice. Mechanisms like mobile phone apps that facilitate chat functionality, group networking, feedback, and two-way dialogue between managers and remote teams. Another good idea? Standing virtual forums where employees can meet regularly to discuss client needs, business operations, and career track and other personnel matters. Another option to consider is targeted virtual jams, impromptu online facilitated events that focus remote workers on specific topics of immediate business concern. Managers might also avail themselves of crowdsourced decision-making tools that submit issues to employees for final decision by majority vote. And a final proven mechanism is using designated email addresses and online feedback forms that employees can use to offer anonymous input. In order to advance more robust cyber risk cultures, remote team managers also should adopt training and compensation strategies that maximize employee engagement. Employee training, otherwise known as upskilling, is a win-win that helps managers mold their workers to better meet the demands of the business, changing customer needs, and their own career objectives. Upskilling helps drive retention, enhances competitiveness, and makes companies more attractive to new hires. Before building a formal upskilling regime, however, managers need a clear understanding of the foundational knowledge they want all their employees to obtain and over what timeframes. That understanding must be developed through regular conversation with off-site workers about their individual training requirements, the company's business goals and objectives, and how to best align both for the good of everyone. Moreover, to make this formal curriculum training stick, managers should encourage the use of real-life, role-playing simulations that enable employees to apply new knowledge immediately. Less formal upskilling opportunities are equally, if not more important, for remote workers. So-called micro-training is particularly well-suited given its accessible format of bite-sized education modules shared through short videos. Each module is designed to meet narrow learning objectives relevant to a particular business. Managers providing micro-training should periodically query their teams about what quick-hit topics would help them do their jobs better, and then build programs around those interest areas. Moreover, by migrating chosen modules to cloud-based learning management systems, managers get the added benefit of being able to track courses completed by each worker, time to completion, tests taken, and certificates earned. Other organic upskilling options include pairing remote team members with other senior colleagues through mentorships and similar job shadowing opportunities, leveraging star talent to create mission-relevant training and making it available through video meetings, recorded sessions, and webinars, encouraging the development of remote worker-led education initiatives that facilitate cross-pollination of in-house expertise, and creating internal and external learning communities where employees can freely engage, ask questions, and informally exchange information with peers. While the options are many, it's important to remember that remote workers, like everyone else, experience daily time pressures and limitations. It's up to managers to help them make upskilling a priority. They can do so by allocating paid training time, rewarding employees who upskill, and approving seminar and workshop attendance during working hours. Now, when it comes to the related issue of pay for performance, work-from-home arrangements present some unique challenges. As an initial matter, remote workers should not be penalized inadvertently for their status. What that means is that companies in the post-COVID-19 world should review their employee evaluation and promotion criteria to ensure they don't favor in-office employees. For obvious reasons, traditional metrics like face time and hours worked no longer apply. Managers accordingly should adopt outcomes-focused evaluations that assess the quality and quantity of completed deliverables. To make the shift, managers should collaborate with their teams to define boundaries, clear sets of objectives, tasks, and deadlines for particular kinds of work, and then free employees to decide how to best navigate within them. Over time, managers should test these boundary metrics by assigning similar projects to different people on the team. In that way, they can compare and contrast performance among similarly situated teammates to determine what constitutes excellent versus mediocre work. This insight can then directly inform salary and promotion decisions. Experts warn, however, that managers should not base remote worker performance evaluations on outcomes alone. They also should focus on behaviors. A work-from-home team member might be extraordinarily productive, but they should not be breaking company rules or tearing down colleagues that, quote-unquote, stand in their way. Behavior-focused performance measures accordingly could include a person's level of cooperation on the team, supportiveness, conflict handling, mental stability, and other similar benchmarks. Given the physical distance that separates managers and their remote teams, Experts further recommend that feedback be obtained from a particular employee's teammates in order to get a truer sense of their performance. Managers should make it simple for colleagues to provide feedback by limiting questions to the kinds of actions an individual should start, stop, or continue in order to advance business goals. Other experts suggest managers widen the circle by gathering 360-degree feedback from different teams, departments, and managers. People in that widened circle may well have perspectives on where an employee best fits given his or her demonstrated skills. This insight can provide managers with a more complete understanding of the individual's work performance that in turn can more richly inform the evaluation and promotion process. The criticality of these four aspects of employee experience make clear that cybersecurity can't remain the exclusive domain of CISOs and other technical professionals. HR leaders are the experts in workplace culture. They must join the fight. Fortunately, a growing financial incentive now exists for them to do so. In 2018, Willis Towers Watson began partnering closely with The Economist publication to take a deeper look at the topic of cyber resilience. The two companies designed a survey centered on a central theme. How are companies positioning themselves so they can best prepare for, respond to, and recover quickly from a cyber event? Over 450 executives worldwide responded resoundingly through increased cybersecurity funding across the board. Survey results showed that 73% of corporate boards plan to spend more on cybersecurity in the years ahead. Broken down, some 50% of companies plan to spend up to 10% more on cyber, while another 23% plan to spend 11% or more. HR leaders will be among the major beneficiaries of this trend. Survey respondents indicated that their companies plan to allocate fully 50% of the increase just on the human element. 19% of the increased spend will be for IT talent acquisition, along with cybersecurity skills training and development for those technical professionals. 16% of the increase will go to rewards and incentives designed to encourage employees to do the right cyber thing during their day-to-day jobs. And 15% of the increase will be for cybersecurity training for all employees, whether they're technical professionals or not. The survey further revealed that companies already are budgeting, on average, 1.7% of their annual revenue on cybersecurity. With the anticipated upward trajectory of future cybersecurity investments, that means a lot of new funding will be headed in the cyber risk culture direction. To get ready, HR leaders should determine now how those incoming resources should be allocated to best address the four aspects of cyber-related employee experience most relevant to their companies. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, work-from-home arrangements will become the norm for a vastly increased number of working Americans. As cybercriminals shift their tactics to profit from this new reality, the need to better manage the human element of cyber risk will come to the fore like never before. Companies will need to build more robust cyber risk cultures that focus especially on the four aspects of employee experience that correlate to higher cyber risk. Those that do so successfully will differentiate themselves substantially from less secure peers. As their reward, they not only will have a strong defense against future claims of cyber negligence, but also will qualify for cyber insurance coverage on increasingly attractive terms. Remote work is America's future. Managing the people piece of cyber risk must be too. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more, please contact me here at Willis Towers Watson. I look forward to hearing from you.